Hello team and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we are going to get started with day 6 of our AWS DevOps bootcamp, where we are going to learn about AWS CLIs. Okay, and we are going to learn about it, then we are going to perform hands-on and manage resources with it. So make sure to watch the video till end so that you don't miss out anything. Also make sure to check out the Git repository where you'll be able to find all the documentation for our this today's video. Okay, and this will be the repository which you have to check out. All the documentation till day 5 I have already added, but for today's video also you'll be able to find it here. Okay, so make sure to check out. Now, talking about today's video, what exactly are the things that we are going to cover today? So first we are going to learn about what exactly is AWS CLI. Then we are going to learn about the key features of it. Then we are going to see how exactly AWS CLI works. Then we are going to jump into hands-on. Okay, then these are the primary things that we are going to focus on today, and we are going to learn AWS CLI in deep with different real-time use cases and examples. So make sure to watch the video till end. Okay, now with that being said, let's get started. So team, now let us understand what exactly is AWS CLI. Now, AWS CLI, from the name itself, you can understand it's a kind of CLI. CLI is what? CLI is command line interface. So it's a unified tool. This CLI is a tool that is going to help us interact. Interact with what? It's going to help us interact with AWS resources. Okay, AWS resources, so that whatever kind of things we want to do with respect to AWS resources, we can do very easily by writing just few commands. Okay, so generally what we do, if you want to create resource, delete resource, or you want to modify some resource, generally what we do, we go on the UI user interface page of AWS. Then we just by clicking certain buttons, we can create a resource or manage it, right? But with help of AWS CLI, you can do all these tasks using, either you can write complete scripts, or you can write small piece of code, or you can even automate it. Okay, and why this is useful? Because this is much easier. It reduces manual effort. Because let's say if you want to create multiple kind of EC2 resources, one time only you have to create the script or a code that you can utilize multiple times. Okay, simply, so next time if you want to create a resource with the same configuration, or even if modified configuration, you can still use the same script, modify little bit within it, and then you can execute the command, execute the code of AWS CLI that is going to create the EC2 instances. Okay, so in simple words, we can say that AWS CLI is a tool that is going to help us interact with AWS resources and manage the resources as well in the most efficient and the easy way. Okay, now, so this is AWS CLI. Now, talking about the key features, like why exactly do we need to use AWS CLI? Okay, first, it's a unified tool. This means that AWS CLI provides a single tool to manage multiple AWS resources, eliminating the need for multiple GUIs or graphical user interface. Basically, once you install AWS CLI and once you authenticate it, obviously, see, if you need to manage resources on AWS platform, you need to make sure that your AWS CLI tool has access, right? Has permissions to execute different commands. So once you authenticate it, that's all. Rest, the only thing that you need to do after authenticating is write your script or codes, or just automate everything. Okay, so it's a single tool which once after installation, you can do everything with respect with AWS resources. Okay, that is the first key feature. When we talk about the second key feature, it's a cross-platform tool. What do I mean by when I say cross-platform? It means that this AWS CLI tool is available for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux as well. Okay, that is another good thing about it. Third, we have automation. So with AWS CLI, what you can do, you can even automate tasks using scripts that is going to reduce manual effort and potential human error. Why do I say that? Because let's say we have a script. Okay, we have a script written in AWS CLI. Okay, that is going to perform a specific task, so we can automate it so that it can run on specific time period or specific time it can run, right? Because if you are doing everything, if let's say someone says that okay, you have to create 10 EC2 instances. Okay, so if I'm doing this manually by going on user interface page or that AWS console page manually, if I'm doing, it is possible that at some point there might be some small silly mistake that could lead to issues, right? That is basically human error. But if you are using a single script, and that we are automating, then even if I create 10 instances or 20 or even 100 or even more, there won't be any issue because it's a script, it's an automated thing. We have written one time, we have make sure that the script is correct, so it's not going to cause issues afterwards. Okay, so third key feature is that automation can be done. Okay, now fourth, scripting and integration. What do I mean by that? Scripting and integration. So now AWS CLI can be easily integrated with existing shell script. So if you have some shell script that is already written, it can be easily integrated with that. AWS CLI can be easily integrated with batch files. Okay, and even we can integrate this AWS CLI with CI/CD pipelines, so that we can execute different kind of commands, or commands to create resources or manage resources at runtime using CI/CD pipelines. Okay, for example, let us understand through an example. Let us say that we have a CI/CD pipeline whose task is to deploy an application. Okay, now the thing is this command, this deployment happens once, like very it happens very rarely. So what we do, every time we want to perform the deployment at the through CI/CD pipelines, we are creating the infrastructure also. Okay, and this creation of infrastructure, creation of different resources within infrastructure can be done with AWS CLI as well. Okay, so yeah, scripting and integration, easily AWS CLI can be integrated with different resources and different tools. Okay, then we have IAM permissions. Now, one question that you might be thinking, okay, there are multiple users within AWS. So if everyone is running AWS CLI commands, so that everyone is having permission, which is not a good thing, right? So what we do generally, the best way to perform like execute AWS CLI commands is that you can first create a user inside AWS IAM. Then you create a specific roles, or you can say define, you can say that permissions. Okay, then for this user you can create credentials. Credentials means access key and secret access key. Now, and once you install AWS CLI authenticating with this credentials, then whatever permission this user is having, same permissions will be given to AWS CLI. So that let's say that to this user I have given no permission to create any EKS cluster, right? So no matter how many times I run AWS CLI command, no EKS cluster will be created. Okay, so this is really good from security point of view. Okay, now these are the key features of AWS CLI. Now let us see how exactly AWS CLI works. So team, now let us understand how does exactly AWS CLI works. So basically what happens, AWS CLI interacts with the AWS services with their APIs. Now I mentioned that AWS CLI is going to interact with the AWS services via their APIs. Now, what exactly is API? So API is application programming interface. Basically, API is a set of rules and protocols using which communication happen between two applications. Okay. For example, if we have two applications, then they can communicate with each other using the APIs. Same thing AWS CLI does. What it does, it's simply going to interact with the API of this specific AWS service, and through that it will be able to communicate with that service. Okay. So this is how it's going to work. Now, in order to get started with the hands-on part, let me show you the flow first. What exactly like we are going to do in order to get started. Okay. Now, since we have understood like how exactly AWS CLI works, let us see like what could be the workflow. Okay. So let us say that this is my AWS console page or AWS platform. And let's say that I have logged in with my root account. Okay. Now, one option is that I can create the credentials for root account and use this to create different resources within the AWS cloud platform. But the problem is that since root account has complete permissions, like if all the permissions root account is having. So if someone is getting access to root account, they can do anything with your cloud platform, right? But what is suggested, what is as part of best practice, what we should be doing, inside there is a service known as IAM, where we can create resources and like we can set up permissions. So inside AWS IAM, we are going to create a user. Let's say I'm going to call this as admin. Okay, admin, and we should maybe we can call it EC2 S3. Now my requirement is that this user will be having permissions, complete permission over EC2 and S3 only. So then what I can do, I can create credentials for this. Okay, and then using AWS CLI, I can connect to my cloud platform. Okay, my account I can connect, and then using this AWS CLI with credentials of EC2 and S3 admin, I can create or manage anything with respect to EC2 machines and S3. Similarly, let's say I want to have something with respect to EKS. Then on EKS, I can give permissions for EC2 also, EKS also, right? So in this way, you can manage permissions also, so that only specific users can have a high level of access. Okay. Now let us do hands-on thing. So for that, first of all, we will go to our AWS cloud account, and here, first of all, we are going to search for IAM so that we can create an account. Okay, so we can create a user. So I have opened this, and we can go on users, click on create user, and here we can give the name as, I'm going to give admin dash EC2 S3. Okay, and we are going to give this option also, so that this user can be utilized over management console. Okay, now I will just select the second option. Let us create one password. Okay, and we can remove this option. So I have created password also, and we can click on next. Okay, one second, let me. Okay, now this user is created, right? Now what we can do, we can attach policies. So click on here. Here I'm going to search for EC2, and EC2 full access I can give first, so that it can have complete access on EC2. Then I'm going to search for S3 and S3 full access. Now this user will be having complete permissions to do things with respect to EC2 and S3. And I'm going to click on next, create user. So now the user is created. Okay, and click on, maybe we can download the CSV file. Okay, so we have downloaded, but still we do not have the credentials that we can use with AWS CLI. This username and password we have, but this is not going to be utilized for this cannot be utilized for this one, accessing the working through AWS CLI. Okay, so team, once you have created the user, you can go on IAM, go on left side this users, click on the user for which you want to create the credentials, and now click on security credentials. Okay, scroll down and you can see this section access keys. So click on create access key, and now you can see there are multiple options. So we are going to select the first one, command line interface, select the confirm it, and click on next. Again click on create access key, and now this is the credential that we need to use. So I can click on this, and it's going to download the credentials. Okay, now once we have the credentials, we can go back to EC2. And now since we want to start using AWS CLI, so for that we are going to run the commands. Either we can run it from our local machine, that is from this Windows laptop, or we can create a separate virtual machine and we can run all the commands from there. The commands is going to be the same in both the cases. Okay, so for now, since everything we in DevOps, most of the things we are doing through Linux only, so I'm going to create this machine from here, new machine from here, and then we are going to utilize that machine to communicate with AWS account for using AWS CLI. Okay, click on launch instance. I'm going to name this as server, click on Ubuntu, and we will leave this as it is, 24.04 LTS. Instance type, we are going to select medium, select key pair, and then select the port. Make sure that we have port 22 enabled because we are going to connect to the machine using SSH. Okay, storage I'm giving 24 now, and click on launch. Now we can go here, we can get the public IP address. So once we have public IP address, we can connect to a machine. For that, we can go to wherever you have MobiXterm. Open MobiXterm first. Let me remove the previous sessions. Okay, let's create fresh session. Click on SSH, provide the IP address that we just copied, public one. Provide username of the machine, which is going to be Ubuntu in our case. And here we can select the private key. Okay. And let me name also this machine as server so that it's easier to recognize. Okay. And as you can see, like we are connected to the AWS EC2 machine. Okay. Ubuntu machine we have connected. Now first command you are supposed to run is sudo apt update. Okay, and let's wait for this to complete. Once this part is done, you need to you need to install AWS CLI. For that you need to use this command. Okay, you can see first we are downloading the package, secondly we need to unzip the package, but by default Ubuntu machine is not having unzip installed, so we are running the command apt install unzip, and then we are unzipping it. Okay, and then we are going to execute also. We are going to execute for installing the machine, installing AWS CLI. So now I have copied that command and I will run it here. Okay, and now let's wait for this. Now installation is done. Next part what we have to do is like provide the credentials. Okay, for that I can run AWS configure. As soon as you run that command, it's going to give you option to provide the credentials. Now where do we get the credentials? So I just downloaded that. Remember this one? Which one is it? Let me close the previous one that we created. Okay, so this is the security credentials which is going to be used for connecting via AWS CLI. You can see access key ID and secret access key. So I'll copy that, provide here. Then we have secret access key, that also we can copy. Region name. So region name you can choose whatever you want. I am choosing the one that is nearest to me, South-1. Okay, which is Mumbai. Output format you don't need to put anything, it works fine even though. Okay, so yeah, we are now connected to our AWS account. Okay, so this will be the first step using which we are connected to our AWS account. Now since we have given S3 access complete, that means we should be able to communicate with S3 as well. For example, if I go here, search for S3, let us test our AWS CLI if it is connected or not. So as of now there is no bucket, and here if I try to run the command AWS S3 ls, which is supposed to give the details of the whatever bucket we are having. Okay, here you can see it, sorry, it should be S3. Okay, but as of now since we don't have any bucket, that's why it's just not giving any kind of output. So here we are going to create a bucket, any bucket we are just going to create just for testing, and I can click on create bucket. Now again if I run the command, we should be able to see the bucket. You can see this is the bucket we just created. Okay, so this confirms that we are connected to our AWS account properly, and we have access on S3 as well, because we have just given the permission of like full access, EC2 full access and S3 full access on the user, right? Now let us execute multiple commands to check out what kind of things we can do with respect to AWS CLI. So team, now let us see how we can utilize AWS CLI with EC2 instances. As of now what I have done, I have created 3 new instances. Okay, so the first command that we are going to run, let me increase the size, AWS EC2, and we are going to like see how many instances are there. For that we can run describe dash instances. And here, whatever instance we have created as of now, all the instance detail will be there. Okay. Now, let's say we have some instance that is stopped and we want to start it. Okay, for example, let's say I'll select this one and I'll go to stop. Okay, so this machine is getting stopped and we can get the instance ID. Once we have instance ID, we can start it actually. Okay, for that we need to run the command AWS EC2 start dash instances. Then we can write instance ID for the identification so that it knows like which machine I need to start. Okay, meanwhile let me refresh so that we can confirm that it is stopped. Okay, so one machine is stopped and 3 are running. So now I can run this command and let's see. Now if I refresh the page, you can see it quickly went into running mode. Okay, talking about next command. So next command, let's say we want to stop it. So for that we simply have to change one thing, which is here we can put to stop. Okay, this is one command. Now we can do one more thing which is quite useful, is rebooting an instance. For that again, here instead of stop I can just write reboot. Okay, now because currently it is in stopping mode, so we cannot reboot it. Meanwhile, let me start it and let me try again. Let us try rebooting some other instance so I can get the instance ID and paste here. Okay, now let's refresh the page and let's see the status. Okay, so one machine got rebooted. Okay, now let's say I want to terminate an instance. So for that what we have to do, I can again just instead of stop I can just write terminate. Okay, this machine got terminated. We can see the status here. So team, now let's talk about how we can run different AWS CLI command with respect to S3 bucket. Okay, so let us say first of all, let's say I want to create a new S3 bucket. For that I can run the command AWS S3 MB. MB means make bucket. Okay, then I can write S3 colon S3 colon // and here we can provide a bucket name. Okay, so let's say I'll just write the bucket name as 𝗦𝘁𝗿𝗁 54321. Okay, and click enter and let's see. Okay, so it was able to create the bucket that we can confirm by going to the dashboard S3 and let's see. So here we can see the bucket is created, right? Now let's say that I want to upload a file. Okay, for example, as of now we are having these files and folders. Let's say I'll create a new file, touch1.txt. Okay, and when we talk about uploading this file, so we can run the command AWS S3 cp, then file name, which is 1.txt, then the bucket name in this format, and the bucket name we have is this one, and click enter and now it is uploaded. So if I refresh the page, go inside the bucket, we can see 1.txt is present, right? And let's say I want to download that file. So for now I'll remove this 1.txt. So for that I can run, let's say I want to download the same file 1.txt, and if I show you, I have removed the 1.txt file from the current directory. Okay, so I can, in order to download the file, I can run the command AWS S3 cp, then bucket name, and bucket name we can copy from here. Sorry. Okay, bucket name / the file name we have 1.txt, then where we want to download. So let's say I want to download it in current directory there, then we can write just a dot. and you can see it is successful, and we can run ls and we can see that 1.txt is successfully downloaded. Okay, now let's talk about how we can use AWS CLI for IAM user management. Okay, so let us say that I want to create a user. So if I run this command AWS IAM create user, and then we can use parameter like what should be the username. Okay, let's say I want to give the username dev user. It won't work. Why it won't be able to work? Because the credential for that we are using, it does not have permission to create IAM users, right? For that, what we can do, we can go to EC2. Here we need to go to IAM first, and we are using the user admin EC2 S3, right? I can click on that and I can add permissions. Click on attach policies, and here I can search for IAM. Once I search, I'll be able to find this option IAM full access, right? I can click on next, add permissions, and permission is added, right? That means now it is having permission for IAM full access, right? So now if I run the same command, let's see what happens. Now you can see it was able to create the user. If I go back to users list, and we should be able to, let me refresh the page, and you can see we are able to see that new user got created, right? Let's talk about how we can attach a policy to the user, because by default it may not have enough permissions, right? So if I go back to user page, and here on dev user, we can see that as of now there is no policy added, right? And let's say I want to add a policy for S3 full access. So if I go here, attach policies, here if I search S3, let's say I want to add Amazon S3 full access. How we can do that? Using AWS CLI. So for that we need to run command AWS IAM attach user dash policy, then username, in our case it is dev user, right? And after that we can write the command to like which user which policy we want to attach. So let's say I want to attach, I'll write here policy dash ARN. We need to write the ARN of the policy, right? The format that we need to write, first we are going to write ARN colon AWS colon IAM, then double column, and now we are going to write the policy. So policy is going to be policy slash, and from here we can copy, okay, policy name. We can paste it here, and let's click enter. Let's see what happens now. Okay, so we have some error. Okay, I think we missed something. 1 second. Here it is supposed we needed to write AWS colon, okay, and let's run it again. Now it got success, and we can check that if I go to dev user, refresh the page, and let's see. Now you can see Amazon S3 full access is given. Okay, so this is how we can attach policies also using AWS CLI. Okay, now let's talk about how we can use AWS CLI with CloudFormation stack management. How we can like manage stacks, like how we can create a stack, how we can delete it. Okay, so let me explain you that as well. So now let's talk about how we can create resources using CloudFormation, but all the things will be done via AWS CLI. Now for those who are not aware about CloudFormation, what exactly is CloudFormation? So let me explain you in short. You might have already heard about IAC. What is IAC? IAC is short for infrastructure as code. Now, similar to IAC, inside AWS we have CloudFormation. Okay. Now we know that for IAC, basically it means infrastructure as code, where the exact infrastructure of the code we write inside a separate file. Okay, we can write it. Let's say I have a Terraform. I'm using Terraform, so I can write xyz.tf. Inside this file, we'll be able to write everything with respect to the what kind of like resource we want to create. All the configuration will be there, right? So using this file, we can create and manage the resources. Similar to that, inside AWS we have CloudFormation, for using which we create stacks. Okay, now for like working with CloudFormation, first we have to create templates. in templates we define the configuration of the resources. For example, let's say I want to create EC2 machine. So configuration of EC2 machine will be defined inside template. We can write like, let's say I want T2 micro, the key like private key should be used, let's say xyz.pim. So these kind of information we provide inside that template, and then using AWS CLI command we can use that template to create stacks, which in turn is going to create the resources that we have defined inside the templates. Okay, so this is what we are going to do now. Also, CloudFormation detailed like learning will be done in upcoming modules, but for now we are just seeing how we can utilize it with AWS CLI. Okay, now, so template could be of in this format, in the YAML format file we have to write, where first we need to define this is kind of default, then below it we define resources, then we have type. So what exactly we are creating here, we have defined EC2, then properties, and inside the properties we are going to write the things that are going to be utilized for creation. Okay, for example, we have written T2 micro, then image ID, then we have key pair. Okay, now the things that we are going to change now, first of all, image ID we need to change. We need to use the image ID that we want to create. For example, I can go to like launch instance page, click on browse more AMIs, and here we can search for Ubuntu. One second, let me go back. EC2 launch instance Ubuntu, and I click on AMIs, and here we can get the AMI. Copy that and we can paste it here. Okay, then key pair. So you need to provide the key pair name, that private key which you have. So for me it's DevOps dash shack. Okay, and this is the template that we have just created. For those who are thinking why we have not defined VPCs, subnet, and security groups, those things. So if I don't define, then by default the default values will be used. Okay, and as I said, this is just testing with AWS CLI to see how it works. Okay, now I can go here, I can create the template dot YAML. Okay, and we can create this, then we can paste the content that we have just created. Okay, and I can save this. Now template is created. Next, what we have to do, we have to run command. But the thing is that even if I run command, we are going to get error. Why? What error and why? Let me explain you. So first we'll write AWS, then CloudFormation, then create stack, then a stack name. Now you can give any name to your stack, whatever you want. I can give, let's say, my stack, and after that you need to provide information about the template. Where exactly is the template? So we can write template dash body, then we can provide the path where exactly it is. So it is present on the current directory only, so I can just write the name of template dot YAML, and let's see what happens. Now you can see this user is not authorized to perform, right? That means this user does not have permission. So what we can do, so now we can go to IAM, go to our user, and here we can go to add permissions. As of now you can see these are the permissions added, so we need to add one more permission, and I'm going to search for CloudFormation. Okay, and this is the permission that I'm going to add, CloudFormation full access. Okay, this permission is added. Now we can go back here and try one more time, and let's see what happens now. Okay, CloudFormation create stack action. Okay, let me refresh the page one more time, and let's see. Okay, now here the permission issue is solved, but we have another issue which is saying template format error unsupported. Okay, so the error that we are getting is with respect to the formatting. So here I need to write file :// click enter and let's see. Okay, now it is able to create, and we can confirm that by going to our AWS account. Here I'll search for cloud formation, and let's see if we have our stack created or not. Okay, so this stack that you are seeing, my stack created on 13 exact time as of now, 1927. So this is the one that has created, okay, that got created, and we can go to EC2 also, and here open this, and we should be able to see that it is able to create the instance. Okay, that means now the command worked. Okay, now let us see what else we can do with respect to cloud formation using AWS CLI. Okay, before that, one more thing we can do. Let's say I want to delete my stack. So for that, I can run AWS cloud formation delete dash stack, then stack name parameter we can use. In our case, stack name is my stack. Okay, so it got deleted also. Same thing we can confirm. Refreshing the page, you can see it is gone. Machine is gone.